In this session, I'm going to talk about the difference between adversarial and collaborative negotiations. These are key principles to understand if you wish to be successful in any type of negotiation. When I talk about understanding a negotiation, I'm talking about knowing what sort of negotiation you're going into. Now, there's a variety of different models that people can use. For example, you can have the thermometer models, where people will talk about cold, warm, or cool and hot type negotiations. Other people will talk about principles, and that's all fine. It's good to have those models and it's good to understand them. However, my focus is very much negotiation in the real world in a very practical sense. So the model I am going to be using here is very simple, and it's designed deliberately so to help people understand how to approach any negotiation that they're encountering. So it's all about having the correct approach. So you identify the sort of negotiation you're going into, and you, on the basis of that understanding, will adjust how you're going to do this. This is all about the how. So I talk about behaviours, and behaviours are a key aspect of any negotiation. And when I'm talking about adversarial and collaborative behaviours, I'm not talking in the sense of you would be approaching negotiation in an aggressive or confrontational manner, because all negotiations, really, regardless of their type, should be done professionally, courteously and respectfully. You just won't succeed as a negotiator if you do not behave like that. But what I do mean about behaviours is that when you are at a negotiation, there will be certain things that you will and you will not do, because you will know that that gives you an advantage or causes you problems, surrenders the advantage or gives away or undermines your position. So this is what I mean by behaviours. You're behaving in a way that is as a professional negotiator should. So let's talk about what an adversarial negotiation is. A key hallmark of any adversarial negotiation, or the key thing to understand really, is that you and the other side do not have the same interest. Your interests do not align. So a very simple example of that is that if you're haggling over the price of something, your interests don't align. The seller wants you to pay the maximum price possible. You, the buyer, want to pay the minimum price possible. So your outcome is sort of that you want to do a sale, but you're not aligned. You don't agree on what it is it looks like. So you'll be negotiating from very different contrary positions. So what that means is there's a competitive pressure. You're competing with the other side to strengthen your position, to undermine their position. And there are various different ways of doing that, all of which do not require to be aggressive, do not require to be confrontational. And that perhaps is a key mistake that many people make. If they think automatically that negotiation is a bit like being in a market and haggling over something, adversarially. Yes, you may not be in the same position. You may be arguing over price, for example, but it is not about winning in that sense. It's not about attempting to, undermine the other person aggressively. So really, the key thing about these sorts of negotiations is that they're very much on simple or single issue matters. Price is the obvious one, but price doesn't have to be the main one. There are all sorts of other things that you could be negotiating for. You could be negotiating standards. You could be negotiating for the supply of something or deadline. All of these things, and they can be adversarial. The main goal, of course, is that you are trying to get an advantage. So whilst I talk like, this negotiation is not about winning, it's about achieving an outcome. But what you're doing in an adversarial negotiation is you're trying to shape the discussion in a way that is more favourable to you. So that is the key thing to understand in terms of the concept of what an adversarial negotiation is. So we go into the adversarial negotiation behaviours. And in terms of behaviours, you're more willing to say no. This is because negotiation is not a conversation, not a discussion. Someone proposes something. You accept or you reject that proposal. It's kind of as simple as that in a way. You may make counter proposals. But because your interests and the interests of the other side don't align, you are going to be saying, no, I don't like that. Make me a better offer, or give me a better proposal. That is really what adversarial negotiation is about. You also be withholding information. You are not going to say what the maximum amount of money you have available to pay, for example, if you're in a bit of a bidding war. Because if you do that, you know that the other side will use that information in order to push for the maximum amount of money possible. So really, when I say the competitive pressure, a lot of the competitive pressure is about information. You're trying not to divulge much of it, but you're trying to obtain as much of it from the other side as possible to your advantage. That's the game that's being played here. So this is a key behavioural distinction between adversarial and collaborative. In the adversarial sense, you don't want to give the other side too much information that they can use against you. And so as a consequence of that, if someone makes you an offer and you say, no, I can't accept that, as much as possible, you should not be seeking to explain or justify your decision. So, no, the price is not right, not interested, make me a better offer, for example. You're not really saying, well, it's not right because, I don't have the money, or the wife wouldn't be happy, or anything like that. No excuses. But just, no, that doesn't meet my requirement. I'm not interested. Make me a better offer. That is part of the behavioural side of things. So let's look at collaborative negotiation in contrast. And this is very much my specialism. This is what I do. So you and the other side have a high degree of alignment. That doesn't mean you want exactly the same thing and you're going to agree on everything. But what this does mean is you both want to achieve the same outcome. So for example, if you're negotiating with another partner to build a building, build a factory, for example, your end goal is a successful construction project for both sides. Both sides want that project to succeed. You have a vetted reason to do so. So you have aligned interests. You may disagree on how, you may disagree on how much, you may disagree on the deadlines, you may disagree on the suppliers. These are all the details. So when you are negotiating in a collaborative sense, you will be focusing on those details with the other side. And you will be seeking to reach understandings on why the other side is proposing and why those details are not the same as you, and reaching a decision on what is the best approach. This is a hallmark of the collaborative negotiation. At the end of the day, if the other side says we cannot deliver to that deadline because it is not possible to get the supplies in on time, then if you believe that, that's a good explanation, then you will work with them to achieve the outcome. You adjust your deadlines, you adjust your goals in light of that information. So really the collaborative approach is essential for complex and big projects and other types of negotiations. And this is again the key issue for those who mistakenly use adversarial style techniques when you're doing a big complicated negotiation. Remember, in adversarial you're withholding information. If you withhold information on the budget available or when suppliers can deliver, for that factory example, well, you're not really helping negotiations. And too many people will not recognize. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with them. It just means you have to understand that you need a collaborative approach, not an adversarial approach, if you wish to achieve a complicated outcome. So let's look at some of the behaviors. You're seeking to solve problems together. That is the approach. If the other side cannot deliver, rather than just saying, nope, we're not interested, we'll find someone else, as you might do in an adversarial style negotiation, you'll discuss that with them. You'll understand why they're the problem, and you'll seek to jointly identify a solution. So what this means is that you're going to have a very proactive approach to understanding each other's positions and concerns. You will have lots of meetings, you will exchange lots of documents, you will discuss all the details, you will discuss the why, the how, the what, the when, all those sorts of things in a collaborative negotiation, because all those details are important to you. Remember, you have a common objective that you want to achieve. So this is the important part in a collaborative negotiation. You don't want the other side to fail, because if the other side fails to deliver, that means you fail to deliver, usually. So a lot of what you're doing is building up trust, and you're building up a relationship so that you both have that level of trust and willingness to talk to each other, to disclose information that helps each other to make a decision and to understand the constraints that the other side might be operating under. And those are important, because the main goal of a collaborative negotiation is to build consensus. You have the common objective, but you need to build a consensus on how you're going to achieve that common objective. And that is why a collaborative form of negotiation is a much more powerful form of negotiation than adversarial. You're really getting into the details of the matter. You're trying to understand things, and you're haggling, if you like, and bargaining on lots and lots of little things, but they all come together to a common joint picture. So the final point I will make in terms of understanding adversarial versus collaborative negotiation is you can have both in the same negotiation. You can have a big project where you both want to see the same outcome, but the supplier may want to use, for example, a higher price product, and you may not think it is justifiable, you may not agree with that. At which point you may enter into a slightly more adversarial style negotiation. But once you've concluded negotiation on that single issue, you can then switch back to collaborative. So overall, you're having a very collaborative style of negotiation, but always recognize when this is likely to happen. So a key thing about collaborative negotiation is that you do a lot more preparation before going in. You want to understand all the issues, you try and get your side and the other side to disclose as much information as possible, because that allows you to prepare for the negotiation. If you go in thinking it's going to be an adversarial style negotiation and you're only going to be negotiating a single issue, and so you don't prepare, you're not going to look very good in that negotiation. It's going to go badly for you. Not to say, of course, you may identify that we do not agree with the other side on a specific point, and in that specific issue, you say we're going to adopt a more adversarial approach, and these are the reasons why. So preparation is always crucial in any negotiation, but a part of that is understanding whether you're going collaborative all the way or whether you're going adversarial in certain aspects. And you need to adapt. You cannot prepare for absolutely everything. So you have to recognize when things perhaps haven't quite gone as you planned and change your approach, and recognize that on that particular issue you are more aligned or less aligned than you originally thought, and respond accordingly. And at a very final point, remember, all negotiations are not about winning, or having an advantage or the others. What you're trying to do is you're trying to achieve your objectives, your outcomes. And it's better to use the collaborative approach to do that, because what that does, that provides a lot of information that allows you to make a good decision. That fundamentally is also what a negotiation is about. Negotiations, a successful negotiation, is not about reaching an agreement. A successful negotiation is about making a decision. And you make a decision whether you think you have a good deal or not. Now you may have an adversarial negotiation because all you're talking about is price. Is the price right for you? Yes or no? Or you've got something far more complicated to go through. Lots of legal issues, lots of financial or project and infrastructure type issues that you need to discuss. So you're using the collaborative approach to gain information that puts it all together, and at the end you say, this package in its entirety, is this acceptable to me, yes or no? And thus you make that decision. If you decide that you fundamentally cannot align with the other side and that actually you need to walk away, then a collaborative negotiation has succeeded. It has succeeded because it has exposed the issues that you need to understand, and it has exposed the facts that you cannot reach agreement. Because what you don't want to do is agree to something to later on realize you should not have agreed to it. So that concludes this little short video on the differences between adversarial and collaborative negotiation.